This is Holly Morrison here at the Shelby Ross Armory here in Conway, where three small-town girls faced their worst fears this past weekend. I was able to get an interview with one of the victims, and her identity was asked to remain unknown for her own protection. This party, called Fright Night, also known as a collaboration, was put on in celebration of UCA homecoming and Halloween at the Shelby Ross Arkansas National Guard Armory off Exchange Road in Conway.
Me and my roommate and then my suite mate and one of her friends decided to go to the armory because my suite mate wanted to go see some of her friends that were there. And I've never gone before. I didn't know what to expect or anything like that. And as soon as me and my roommate walked inside, we instantly felt really uncomfortable. All these guys, they would be right next to you because it was such a tightly packed space. And so they would be right next to you and just stare at you and look you up and down. And as they walked past you, they would reach their hand down and grab your stomach or grab your butt or grab your thigh or anywhere that they could just get their hands on. And what was really creepy is that you turn around and look at them and you're just like, what did you just do to me? And they it was just normal for them. They didn't care. It didn't cross their minds that it was gross.
After immediately having second thoughts about entering the party, the victim decided to grab her friends and leave the building.
So we go out to the car, and this big black guy just walks over and rips open the driver's side door, which is where I was, and he looks at us and he yells over to all of his friends, "Hey, we got a car full of women over here."
According to the victim, the car was immediately surrounded by black males who had been at the party. A friend who was supposed to be meeting them at the armory arrived at the scene after the victim called him asking him for help.
He ran up to the car and he said that whenever he was getting closer to the car, he was thinking, please, dear God, that's not them. That is scary. And he said he got closer and then he realized it was us and he was just really afraid.
As the male friend was trying to subdue the mob surrounding the victim's car, the suite mate started to yell at some of the men that were close to her.
One of the girls that had gotten out was scared and she was kind of just yelling at him back up, leave us alone. And one of the guys from the crowd grabbed her head and just smacked her head against the car.
Once the male friend of the victim realized what had just occurred, he meets a similar fate.
And so she screamed and she got in the back seat and I turned around and someone had smacked him across the head and he turns around and looks and he just looks at me in the eye and he turns around and someone just punches him across the nose and their fist was right in front of me, just right there, and it was slow motion and he had blood pouring down his face.
As the damage to the suite mate and friend occurred, the victim's hometown friend and roommate was fighting her way into the back seat away from the mob of guys.
She looked at me and just made eye contact with me for a split second, and in that split second, the guy just punched her in the face, just right on the side of the face, and blood was just everywhere. And she just looked at me and it was oh my gosh, this is real. This is seriously just happening right now, and we're just trying to go home.
After finally being able to leave the scene, the victim and her roommate went to the ER where her hometown friend received 7 stitches in her lip. This is the picture of the men that the victim claims to be the main cause of the violence. She had a little bit to say on her desired outcome of the perpetrators.
I just want people to know how serious that is. That's not something that should ever happen to anyone. Especially even a guy and a guy, 2 guys fighting, that shouldn't happen just because somebody's angry. There's no reason for that. And so what I want is, I just want the guy that did it to know how wrong he was in doing it, and just know this isn't okay. This is not something that it never needs to happen ever again. And what's sad is that as easily as he hit my roommate, he's probably done that before. He had no problem hitting a girl. Not one. Clearly. He just did it and it was fine. It wasn't a big deal to him. So hopefully, with this, it can prevent him from doing something else to somebody else.
This is Holly Morrison reporting for News 6.